Japanese linguistics
Yay!
with Stephanie. Stephanie, do you consent to this?
Of course I do. I consent to my role in this project and for what I'm about to say.
Okay, can you sign this for me, please? Read the fine print. Okay, Stephanie, can I ask you a few questions about Japanese and your experience learning it?
Of course.
Okay, so let's see. First of all, where do you start with your experience of learning Japanese? Like, why did you want to learn it?
Well, honestly, as bizarre as it sounds, it started with my love of Japanese animation and anime on manga.
Mm-hmm.
I would want to say like it started around like I was like about 12, probably 11 years old. And I was like, oh, as I kept watching, the sub version rather than a dub, I started picking up the words and the sentences, and from there, like I tried to learn the characters and so on and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
I think that when you get into a language, like studying the cultures, like media for that media, makes it a little bit easier because you hear the tonality of how it's being said. And because Japanese is so phonetic, I feel like it just gives you like, it makes you used to like how your mouth is supposed to move when you're saying it. Mm-hmm. So like, in English we say L, in Japanese so much there's no like L sound, there's the R sound, so it's replaced. So like a name like Catalina would be Katarina. Yeah, because they don't say the L really. And like with V, they replace it with like a B.
Yeah, just like Chinese people, they're trying to make fun of Chinese people, but they don't really have like the R. So when you hear them say "pokparais," they're not saying because they want to be like funny or anything. They're saying because they don't really.
That sound doesn't exist in their language, and like there are certain sounds and consonants that don't. Well, there's certain consonants that don't exist in English. Yeah. That any English speaker would not be able to say, like the hiragana, the ganasu. There's like a TSU when it's anglicized, or what they would say is romancized. Mm-hmm. And you have to subtly say the T sound without overpowering the su. Mm-hmm. So it's su. Like, it's very minuscule.
Yeah. Also, and what country did you learn this language? Like in...
Well, in America.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, started here in New York.
Mm-hmm.
Dirty Apple.
In the Dirty Apple. When you try to interact with a person from like the Japanese language, how does any like absurd communications ever occur?
Oh my god, this actually happened when I was much younger. I was actually coming back from a con, and like I had like a bunch of stuff on me like that said I was like a huge, weeb. I can't curse. I almost did, but I stopped myself.
You could curse all you want.
Oh, okay.
My professor likes that.
Well, I'm not going to.
Why?
Because I already started the sentence. It's too late. But I had a bunch of like, nerdy stuff on me. Uh-huh. And I guess some native Japanese people were like there, and they were like giving me looks, and they were whispering about it, but I didn't really hear about it. But as for like absurd things I've heard in Japanese, like there's been a few. Like I'm trying to like formulate the sentence so I can say it now, but basically it's like a double entendre of like of a flute. So like a flute player and a girl who plays the flute.
Okay.
Yeah. I think we get it. I think you got it, right?
Yeah, I got it.
All right, what's next?
Okay. So also I want to know, do people like ever try to stereotype when you try to like speak or anything like that?
Okay, so being a foreigner, right, that's speaking our language, especially when it's East Asian, and because of the culture of Japan, a lot of Japanese people believe it's because we have this, I want to say closed-minded view of Japanese society because of anime. The society we see, or the culture we see in anime is very, very minute. There's like a huge, like, thriving culture in Japan that's easily bypassed because a lot of Westerners see Japan as just microcosm in anime, and it's not. That is a part of the culture, yes it is, But it's just like saying like the entirety of America is like the Kardashian family.
That's true.
Or saying that the entirety of like Trinidad is just doubles and shark bait.
Can you show me tell me like an example like of this happened and anything like?
Okay, so in Japan you have something called the otaku culture, and that's basically mostly young men who are obsessed with anime, games, you name it, and their obsession goes to the point of like fanaticism, and they lock themselves away in their rooms, and it's like they have these ultra conflated views of what femininity is, and there's like rampant pedophilia, you know, the works, and it's very toxic, and it's like disgraceful to most Japanese people. So when you see a lot of Westerners who ascribe by this like word otaku as like this like endearing thing when it's not, it's basically like almost like an insult out there, and to be a part of that community is being like, you know, ostracized basically.
Yeah.
So I would say with anybody trying to learn like Korean, like Mandarin or Japanese, that you take your time to understand what that culture is. And I'm not saying, oh, go read a history book, but I'm trying to say like, be aware of where it comes from. Look into what this joke really means, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like, how long have you been studying this language?
I've been studying like Japanese culture generally and language since like I want to say since I started anime. Like I was 12, 13 years old, and I just like I have a natural like love for history.
Yes.
And like just generally, so like that's what forced me into it. So I'll like learn one thing from media, and then I'll go into something else. Like I remember watching this anime where like they like really briefly, I think it was Gintama, where they briefly discussed
Gintama,
yeah,
that's fire.
Like I think they briefly discussed like the tale of Genji.
Yeah.
And I went ahead and read about it and learned about the first novel being written by a woman, and that was Lady Murasaki. Oh, it was really great. And it's just a great portrayal of what Heian period Japan was. Mm-hmm. And that made me learn about, that showed me a whole new view to it. So there's like layers. I feel like you're disappointing yourself when you don't really look into a culture like that.
Of course.
Yeah. And like if you go into Japan just thinking about anime, like you're a dub. Like there's so much more shit there. Come on. It's a disservice to you.
It really is though.
Yeah.
And like how fluent are you?
I would say like I can definitely like read and like hiragana, kana, that's very basic. I'm basically like a 5-year-old reading wise because of like how complex kanji is, and for me to like really learn kanji I would have to like sit down, go to class and like learn that because it's extensive. And but I can do like hold a conversation pretty well. Like I can introduce myself, and like I could understand what they're saying and translate.
Yeah.
So like your basic introduction would be like, oh, let's say you're on your first day of class and you have to introduce yourself to your peers. You'd be like, if it's morning, it's Ohayo gozaimashita. Watashi no nama wa Stephanie desu. Yoroshiku onegai shimasu. And then like you have, of course, with different people, you have different honorifics. If they're younger than you can say san. If they're older, senpai. Or if you're their teacher, sensei. If they're like a respected elder, sama. Yeah. And so on and so forth. And then you have names for your parents. And like with Japanese or most Asian languages, depending on like how it's said, it's like honorable this or honorable that. And then there's something that's more like familial, or like you would call your grandpa Oji-sama, but you would call an old man on the street Ji-san or Ji-sama, just to be respectful of them. And then with kids, like you have, let's say like your brother Javed, you'd call him Javed-kun, because that's like your little brother, but you would like, a stranger wouldn't say that to him, like they would refer to him as Javed-san, or whatever.
Yeah. But also, like, you know, like, just, like, basics and formalities and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But, for the most part. But then, when are you, like, most comfortable, like, speaking?
Japanese?
Yeah.
Like, it's obviously not a language I use on a day-to-day basis. And I think it's a little bit disrespectful to just talk out of pocket to, like, I think a Japanese person when I see them.
Mm-hmm.
But, like, if, like, I'm at a restaurant somewhere and I've noticed that they're struggling with it, like, I'll use that. And if they'll talk to me, like, a little bit after, like, oh, you understand Japanese? Like, yeah, I do. And it's, like, it's very, like, passerby. I don't, like, forcefully go to Japanese place and be like, oh, ohayo gozaimashita. Like, no, I'm not gonna do that.
Of course not.
Hiketakiwa, I'm not.
Even in my job, I have to do that. Like, especially with Spanish people go, like, German people or Italian people, you gotta say ciao.
Like, think about it. Like, if someone came up to you, like, fanatically in love with English, and was like, oh my god, how do you say this in English? You'd be like, you'd be weirded out. Like, I know I would.
I mean, I kind of wouldn't. I don't know. I'm just a weird person.
Like, think about growing up and when people would say, like, oh, can you say this in Trinidadian? It's like, what do you mean say this in Trinidadian? I speak English.
They'd just be like, speak Trinidadian for me. Like, who are you? You're going to tip me? You're going to give me money?
Yeah, it's like they're acting like this is, like, whole inventive things. Like, yes, it's another dialect. Yes, it's another language. But it's not something that's extreme.
Like, go and Google and...
Exactly.
Google pay me. Okay. So... as far as that goes, what is your, like, biggest obstacle that you had to overcome in Japanese?
My biggest thing is, like, learning the kanji and, like, really being strict with it, because I don't want to be just conversational anymore, and, like, I have a lot of nerves when I'm speaking Japanese, so, like, I stumble over my words, and I might not pronounce things well, but it's a learning process, and I've, like, reserved myself with that.
Yeah, that all comes with, like, breathing, though, too.
Yeah, it does.
Breathing, and, like, there's, like... ways how you move the vowels and consonants and practices, you gotta be more comfortable.
Right.
So, like, if you find somebody who speaks the language and maybe can help you, like, develop it better.
True.
Yeah. Speak to them if they're comfortable with that, too.
Is it?
How has learning this language impacted you as an overall person today? How broad in horizons has it?
I feel that learning about another, like, culture in general, just by anime, just by comic books in general, it made me, like, more willing to look into other cultures' languages and other things I could learn about. So, I don't know, just I felt like animation and Japanese ones at that have a way of appealing to, like, your pathos without needing a person there. Because for you to, like, associate with an animation to, like, basically lines and squiggles, and you personify that and you feel things for it, that's amazing. That's a cinema feat. Because the way we look at ourselves is through other people. And we're looking at ourselves through, like, art, basically. And I just always found that very, like, like, almost freeing. It's just like, wow.
Yeah, because you're an artist and such like that. And so it just broadened your horizons to so much more.
Right, and I feel like the West should, like, respect animation outside of just, like Pumpkin Sockum cartoons, because it's so much more than that. It could hold a lot of story to it.
Yeah.
So, like, in a way, I would say my love and my interest in Japanese language made me love animation.
Thank you so much, Stephanie.
You're welcome.
Okay, bye-bye.
I'm about to be the best one speaking.